Live from the City of Angels, it is Sunday morning, time for Breaking Box Office, and what a terrible weekend for The Crow. We'll get to those numbers in just a minute, but we want to start with the film that returns to number one here this weekend. Deadpool and Wolverine has taken the number one slot again in its fifth weekend, now at $18.3 million in this fifth weekend alone. So let's go to the Disney email and get all the latest on Deadpool Wolverine. $1.211 billion on this film. That is 577.2 domestic, 634.1 international. The number one movie in a number of markets still, including here in the United States, also France and Australia. Also the eighth MCU release of all time, passing Civil War, and will pass Iron Man 3. This is just an international cash, right? Global cash. It'll be global on Iron Man 3 to take the number 7 slot. It's the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. We know that. And it is also domestically, again, back at number 1 here after its fifth weekend, which is something you rarely see. Now, we are in August, and it's very slow, right? We're talking about films that open this weekend and blink twice. We'll talk about that momentarily. And then you look at Crow, which bombed, and Strange Darling. These are smaller films. Kids are going back to school. Football's cranking up. So people are straying away from the multiplex, and that's why you have an opportunity here to have number one again in weekend number 5. Domestically, it's the 6th MCU film of all time, and it's a massive runaway success. Like we said 1 billion on this film. It's at 1.2. I mean, how much higher do we crawl? Do we go maybe 1.3, 1.35? Can it get to 1.4? Listen, it's going to start to slow down big time, as we saw this weekend, under $100 million for the entire weekend at the box office, because, again, it's this one of those things that people are doing other things, and unfortunately we're going to suffer. And you look what a film that it didn't do as well in the second weekend, down 61%. Alien Romulus really fell hard, but the good news for Disney is this gives them the number 1 and number 2 films of the weekend, and the global gross on Romulus is already up to 225.4. That is 152 million of that coming from international cash. So this is big overseas. We talk about at least wanting that 1-to-1 international to domestic box office, and you look at a Twisters that is nowhere near that. It's like 30% international. That's terrible. This film is doing literally a 2-to-1 international, because the domestic is at 72.6 after 2 weekends. But as we mentioned here, look through the email, it's about ready to pass Covenant, and that lifetime gross is 74.3. It'll do that this week, no problem. And internationally, again, China is big here. 19.7 million in the second weekend, just 25% down from that strong opening. Already stands at 73.3 million in China alone. So listen, it's really important. Disney understands this now. I think they made a lot of mistakes over the past several years, and I know there's a lot of anti-woke channels out there that want to hammer Disney 24/7. We're not going to do that, even though I have my issues with the company. I'm going to tell you that they know that if they make their films controversial from a quote woke standpoint, China's not gonna go for it. So you're not gonna get the Chinese market. So do you want that cash or not? So you have to ask yourself, do you want to put forth the messaging in your film that you think needs to be there for whatever reason, or do you want to get China as a market? Now, that sounds like I'm saying you want to censor yourself. No. It's trying to make certain that the film that you produce is not trying to push a message. I hate messaging. Who doesn't? Okay. And I like a lot of films that a lot of anti-woke brigade loathes, because I'm objective. But when you're talking about making money, you got to watch that. You got to be smart about these business decisions, and they have here with this film. But you look at it, we're looking at a solid second weekend here, certainly overseas. So Romulus is doing quite well for Disney, in addition to, as we mentioned, Deadpool, Wolverine, also Inside Out 2, now has hit $1 billion in international cash alone. Okay, that is pretty crazy when you think about just 600 million here stateside and $1 billion overseas alone. 1.6. It should take down the Lion King 2019 this week. I want to mention before we get to Blink Twice, you see the email there. We'll get to it in a second. It ends with us at 11.9 in its third weekend. $240 million worldwide for It Ends With Us. That is bigger than Anyone But You, also Little Women, two other Sony films that did well with that female demo, obviously, and this film continues to do well, even with the Blake Lively controversies. We'll talk about that tonight again. I mean, man, people really want to cancel her for saying some goofy shit, some stuff that wasn't perfectly worded. But now we live in a world where the nerds, where the film Twitter dweebs all gang up and well, Blake Lively's the worst thing ever because she didn't state that right. She was insensitive. Let's cancel her for being a mean girl. She might be a mean girl. How many times have I told you guys that there's a lot of people in Hollywood that you think are really cool and they're sons of bitches, bastards off the screen? You don't even know. So stop acting like you know all this shit. Okay? And stop trying to cancel people because they say something you don't like. You might not like it, but shut up. Don't sit there and act like one of those hall monitors. The other day, I had someone come on the stream and was like, "You're too aggressive, Weber. Here's a hint for you, honey. Don't fucking watch." How about that? You like that? Is that good enough for you? Because I don't need you to watch. I don't care if you watch. Don't tell me I'm too aggressive. Is this too aggressive for you, honey? Too fucking bad. Okay, that's my response to you. Blink twice. We're just doing the box office numbers, and Weber's got to attack the person. He's being aggressive. I really like Blink Twice, guys. Talk about aggressive. Trigger warning. Blink Twice is a hell of a directorial debut. I mean, I was blown away by Zoe Kravitz and what she did with this film. Screenplay, maybe some issues. We'll talk about it tonight, MMT evaluation. But this is a film that I really dug. I mean, this has some Jordan Peele feels to it. It's got Strange Darling stuff going on along with some Glass Onion. It's really good. I recommend this film. You need to see Blink Twice, okay? Along with Skincare and Strange Darling. These are three solid films that are in theaters right now. Go support them. But look, only 14 million on the worldwide debut on this film. A little over 7 million here stateside, 6 million plus on the international cash. This isn't great, and it's an Amazon film, right? Warner Brothers handling it overseas. For these films to succeed, they can't be thrown into the streaming right after they're in the multiplex. We need some time. I need these studios to hold off on putting this at home, and Amazon Prime will probably have us at home in 2-3 weeks. And we saw that happen with Fly Me to the Moon, and that's not good. And by the way, this is another middling debut for Channing Tatum, although I think he's really good in this film. But Channing Tatum, listen, do we even live in an era of box office stars anymore? Look at how many of these films are pushed on IP. I mean, Deadpool Wolverine is Reynolds and Jackman, but it's also Deadpool Wolverine, right? So it's kind of it's a little hybrid action going on there. But you look at an Alien Romulus, nobody in that film anyone cares about. Kaylee Spaney is not somebody that people run out to buy tickets to see, not at this point. So you're talking about the IP, and as such, I think that Channing Tatum is just one of those things that he just has to be in the right film. But listen, it's okay if you're not a box office draw like the old Tom Cruise. It's just the new world we live in. So let's not be so hard on Channing Tatum, who I think makes some interesting choices. I like him as an actor. I think he's limited. I think you have to watch what you put him in. Here, he's really good. This is where you want him to be in a film like A Blink Twice, where he's playing this kind of asshat, right? Jerk. And he works in that role. It's got a little Magic Mike kind of tinge to his performance, but more of a malevolent level. I like it. We'll talk about it tonight. Also want to mention this, The Forge, which is a faith-based film, got an A+ cinema score and $6.6 million on the debut here stateside. A+ cinema score is very rare. That said, you typically see these with the faith-based film because the audience is packed with church groups, with people that are heavily religious. They're there to support the film, so they're going to go ahead and give it an A+. Sound of Freedom, same thing, right? Exactly. So when you have your audience packed full of fans, they're going to stack that grade higher. I haven't seen it. I watched the trailer. I don't think it's for me. I think I'm going to take a skip on this. Not that I don't like the faith-based films. I've seen the majority of them, but sometimes I just watch and I'm like, this just feels very Lifetime channel-y with the messaging and all that. And I'm a positive guy largely, even though I'm, quote, aggressive. Too bad, honey. We're going to up the aggressive factor for you. And guess who's back? The person who's like, all right, let's just go ahead and get rid of this person. Goodbye. All right, let's go to the box office top 10. Here we go. Box office top 10. Deadpool and Wolverine, number one, $18.3 million. Alien Romulus, $16.2. It ends with Us, $11.8. In third place. Blink Twice, fourth at 7.3. The Forge, 6.6. Do you know what I haven't noticed and I haven't said yet? Have you guys heard me talk about The Crow? Well, get ready. We're going to talk about The Crow in just a second because we still haven't gotten to The Crow. We're at number 6. Twisters, 6.2. Coraline. How about this? On the re-release on this film, $24.6 million, down just 47%. $5 million this weekend. What a huge success for Leica and Fathom, or is it Fathom, right? Fathom. Phantom. Actually, I kind of like that too. Fathom has this thing, and that means you can't use A-list, so it's just smart. You know, if you want to buy a ticket, you have to pay for it, and it's paid off for Leica. $24.6 million, over $100 million now on that film. Number 8, can you guys see it? The Crow at $4.6 million. Let's go back to Deadline and let's read about The Crow at a terrible 4.6 debut. The per screen average on that, $1,670. That is brutal. It's only $50 million, this film. It's not like Borderlands at $120. Important to note that as you know, all the financials are revealed here, Deadline is so good. Okay, if you're talking about a publication that nails the inner Hollywood, the inside numbers, the stuff behind the scenes, Deadline's better than anybody. And they say here that Lionsgate picked this thing up for $10 million and then put P&A $15 million. Prints and advertising, that's a total of $25 million. So at those numbers, this film will lose them money, but not as much as Borderlands. It says here it plans they're going to lose $20 to $30 million on Borderlands. Remember, we told you on Borderlands, you have to just fire everybody who said, let's make this film. In this case, it's another loser for Lionsgate. Guys, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm available to go to Lionsgate. If Lionsgate wants to hit me up in the DMs, I'm going to go ahead and take the offer, and I'll come over there, and the first thing we're going to do is blow out half of your movies. I'm going to look at what you have on the slate, and we're going to Batgirl quite literally 50% of the films you have in the pipeline. We're going to blow them out, and we're going to say, what are we doing here? I'm going to transition the entire studio to more of an award studio. I would actually almost follow Amazon MGM's lead and try to turn it into that. fewer releases, higher quality, not garbage like The Strangers. I know that's a horror film that probably made them money, but that film's trash. I mean, I would be embarrassed to tell anybody I worked at Lionsgate at this point, other than John Wick. I don't really even want to mention, do you work? I do not work for Lionsgate. I work for a studio you've never heard of. Well, then you work for Lionsgate. So this is a really terrible situation for them. And they have some people over there that don't know what the fuck they're doing. Okay. Which is the story of Hollywood. Now, Hollywood has so many people that are in positions of power that have no clue. They say, let's make The Crow, which is something that no one should have said yes to. This is a film that should have stayed back in 1994. Nobody asked for a reboot. It's not terrible. I see some people coming in here. I told you guys it's not terrible. It's watchable, okay? When we talk about a terrible film, you've got to save those for the films that are truly odious, right? The films that deserve to be butchered. This is not that film. Is it, as I mentioned during the evaluation, very average direction, middling, just forgettable? The music usage just doesn't really work in the film in that it's not well directed. Zoe Kravitz, go watch Blink Twice. If you want to see a director who knows what she's doing, trust me, and SMS Podcast saw the same movie. Because I would agree from an actress standpoint, maybe she has some limitations, but from a directorial standpoint, I'm liking what Zoe Kravitz is doing. Go see this film. I'm going to talk about it tonight. If you have some time today and you're looking to fill that calendar up, you got space, go see Blink Twice. Go see Strange Darling. We'll talk about that tonight as well. Only 1.1 million on Strange Darling. If we go back to the top 10, you can see here it's not even in the top 10. It only made about $950 per screen. Not great. As I wrap here this morning, get ready for tonight, I'm going to tell you guys this. It's very important that these small films succeed, because the more of them that do not, the sooner that we're not going to get these films in theaters, okay? We're going to be blitzkrieg of tent poles such as Deadpool, Wolverine, Twisters, these kind of films over and over and over. And I'm actually a fan of Deadpool, Wolverine. You guys know that. But I still want to see Blink Twice, Strange Darling, Skincare, Asphalt City. I want to see these small films and see them succeed. But when you throw them on streaming, 5 days after they debut, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's absurd. Day and date, which we saw during all the COVID bullshit. So here's the thing. Get out and support these films, or we're going to not see them anymore, and that's not a good situation for anybody. And Emotion, I saw some of your comments this morning. Thanks for coming in and giving me these. Exactly. John Wick, Hunger Games, Saw, and I guess The Strangers. What else? I mean, they're really hurting, okay? And A24's had a terrible year too. We'll talk about that again tonight. It's been a bad year for Hollywood, for a number of studios, but I want you to get out and support Blink Twice. I want you to support Strange Darling. I want you to go out and support these small indie films, because we're not going to get them for much longer the way things are going. Live from the City of Angels, I'll see you tonight on the Sunday Evening Spectacular. MMT Breaking Box Office is out.